How's it going, everybody? Just back from a short ride on the waterfront. Beautiful day. It's nice and clear skies, and a little bit chilly, but awesome ride. I wanted to just go along a little bit more from what I discussed last week around training in the correct intensity, correct zones. I've been listening to a few podcasts this week and doing some reading up on some recent articles that have come out, and there's it's just a continuation of the discussion that I was having. So we're talking low aerobic intensity here, and the importance of understanding the zones that you are required to stay within, and having the discipline to stay within those zones. If we're looking at zone 1 or zone 2 or under aerobic threshold, there's quite a wide range in that. For some people, we could be looking at 30 beats in a heart rate, maybe 40 or 50 watts within that range. So just because the workout calls for a steady zone 2 intensity doesn't mean it has to be the top end of your zone 2. You can spend hours and hours and hours on a bike around 65-70% of threshold, and still just get as much out of it as you would have if you'd push yourself up to that 75-80% of threshold. In fact, you probably find that you get more from it because you're not getting as fatigued, your body's not feeling as smashed afterwards. You're able to get out the next day and train the same, complete your workouts, and you're a happier person, not getting injured. So it's really important to understand those zones and what they actually mean and how you feel day in, day out. Not every workout has to be a personal best. If you can understand that, then that's the clear way to move forward and to become a better athlete. Use the easy training, the low intensity training wisely, and understand it as you're building durability in your body. You're building resistance to the training load. The higher intensity work, the top end stuff, is the cream on the top. It's the cherry on the top. Cream on the top. Cherry on the top. It's where you really do your fine tuning. You do need to have that higher intensity work, but you don't need to have it every session. And if we look at that model of between 5 to 20% of your training load being at a higher intensity, it's even better to perhaps err on the side of caution, so maybe keep it to 5 to 10%. That may equate to only 2 or 3 sessions per week at a higher intensity. The benefit of being a triathlete is you get to choose where you want to put those sessions in, or your coach will choose for you, whether it's one high intensity swim, 2 high intensity bikes, 1 swim, 1 bike, 1 run, what have you. Your coach will understand what works best for you. The reason why I don't like seeing too much high intensity work, or that middle zone intensity for running, is running is a sure way to get injured. Running too fast is a sure way to get injured. As a sports podiatrist in my previous career, most of the injuries that I would see come through came about when people started speed work in their training plans and they hadn't built a powerful or durable enough engine or chassis. So they would just push themselves into that longer, unproductive tempo work too soon, or not use it wisely. Obviously, you do need to have some time in those areas, but too much is a sure way to get injured. So just be disciplined. Just understand what your training zones mean, what is best for you, what your training plan calls for. Don't second guess what the training plan says, because if it's written by your coach who understands you well, probably knows better for what you need than what you think you need. And trust the science. The research has been done. We know that this stuff works. Professional or elite athletes have been doing it year in, year out for their whole careers, and it makes sense for age group amateur athletes to do the same thing. Even if you're on, if you're limited for the number of hours you can train per week, 10, 12 hours maybe, it's still important to keep that ratio. You don't need to be squeezing in more high intensity work just because you're not getting the same amount of volume as someone who's training 20 or 25 hours a week. they probably do the same number of high intensity work, but they just have more time at that lower intensity training zone. So they just have the ability to build greater durability from longer, low intensity hours. It is hard to, I guess, find the discipline to stick to that lower intensity work. It does take, the higher intensity work has a shorter adaptation time, but it is short-lived. So whereas a lower intensity work takes longer to adapt and longer to see the results, but you do get it for lasting for longer and longer. That's why we see athletes can race year in, year out at Ironman if they've trained wisely through the early years. If you can almost come up to a key race maybe 4 to 5 weeks out, having not done any higher, long threshold workouts or long tempo workouts, and having only done a large amount of low intensity with a little bit of high intensity. As soon as they add that race specific stuff over the last 4 or 5 weeks, they can get very fit very quickly. But it's just a matter of trusting your own training and understanding why you train certain ways and what energy systems you're training through your workouts. Just the key thing I want to say here is not every session has to be a PB. Not every session has to be your best effort. Just because you're running at a pace which is maybe a minute or a minute and a half per kilometre slower than your target race pace doesn't mean that you're not getting benefit from that session. You will have plenty of opportunities to train at that higher race specific intensity, but take the time to get there. There's no hurry. You want to be able to line up to your race feeling fit, fresh and fast. You don't want to be tired, fatigued and injured. But that's about it for now. I've got a few other topics I want to talk about, but we'll give it a few days. Let you absorb this one. If you have any questions, please feel free to come back and ask me. I've had some good feedback from these videos over the last few weeks, so hopefully I'll keep adding some more interesting topics for you. But you'll hear from me soon. Thank you. See ya.